conservative political commentator and reporter Scottie Hughes, and veteran White House correspondent and mentor to me, Brian Karem. And I'll kind of play a little bit of almost prosecution and defense right here. Scottie, thanks for doing this. I hope everybody's good at home. Brian, I start with you as kind of the why it was wrong. Why was it wrong?
Well, I don't think it was wrong. I think Caitlin Collins did the best that she could. I agree with that. I think that he should be given a platform, and I think those people that are complaining about it really don't understand the process. Look, there's a lot of nuance in doing. I could pick apart things that Caitlin did and say I would have done them differently. Most people in our business, Chris, you know that, could do that. That's typical. But she did the best that she could under those circumstances. I think the management, how you put together that particular town hall meeting, was inherently flawed by loading it up with and turning it basically into a Trump rally. We know that that's what Donald Trump is going to do. We know he plays to the crowd. If you really want to get to the bottom of what Donald Trump is, we know what he is. He didn't say anything new last night that we haven't heard, that he was held on the record on some things that he did. She even asked the same question at the end of the night that I asked him from the briefing room, win, lose, or draw, will we accept a peaceful transfer of power? And he said, well, it depends if it's an honest election. Hint, that means if he wins, he'll accept it. If he loses, he won't. So, you might want to change the wording of that question. But at the end of the day, yes, he needs to be heard because, yes, he's a candidate. And if you do have a better idea, put it forward. The problem with what happened last night was the expectations of the audience from the far left, who thought that, wow, they'll come out and they'll pound him and they'll show him up to be who he is. And that's not what those things are all about. So I have a problem with that expectation.
As a former CNNer who's done that job a lot, that's not what a town hall is. And every candidate gets a home team audience, okay? If it was a lefty,
change.
Well, but fine. But that's what it always is. It wasn't done special for Trump. If it was Biden, it would be Democrats and left-leaning independents, whatever that means. Now, Scottie, here's the part that I don't like, which is he went into the lion's den. No, he didn't. He went in there with someone who knows how to do the job, who is not a gratuitous hammer, and it was a home crowd, and you know that because they cheered for things that might get you stoned in a community where you had people in there that were actually against you. What did you think of the opportunity?
Well, Chris, there's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacks happening right now. And I think if anybody was surprised by yesterday's events, and they obviously have not been following Donald Trump or the media for the last 8 years and how he's handled them, maybe even the last decade. But I think what you pointed out there, this was a town hall. This was meant to be the candidate presenting himself to the audience, giving information. What Caitlin did, and I will give her a lot of credit for being young and for being able to handle probably one of the most challenging candidates we've ever seen in the face of politics, especially on a national scale on a platform like CNN. So I want to give her credit for that. But let's also realize what she did, and I think this is where a lot of the pushback is on how she handled it, was the fact she turned this not into a town hall with Donald Trump telling what his platform is, telling his policy. She turned this into a debate, the media versus Donald Trump. And that is where you saw a lot of the conflict. She turned this in, that was not her role in this. She was supposed to be a facilitator. She was not supposed to be a part of the debate.
It's true, but Scottie, here's the fix, and I've been in this jam too, which is I want it to be about the audience, but then you say something that is so at odds with reality that I've got to check it. And the town hall makes that very hard. It's actually harder to do than a debate, I believe, as the moderator. But I just want to touch on what I think is the bigger point, Brian, with you, which is we've gotten to a place, and it's a lot of our brothers and sisters that are doing this, Brian, where if I don't like the idea, you shouldn't give it a platform. You should not interview that person because they say things that we don't like, that are arguably bigoted, or in the case of Trump, he lies too much. He shouldn't get a platform. You see all the MSNBC anchors putting out stuff like that. That's a problem.
Yeah, 2 points to that. One is the saying in this country behind the First Amendment, or the sentiment is, I disagree with what you say, but will defend to death your right to say it. We have now abandoned that concept for the idea that I disagree with what you say, and because I'm right and you're wrong, you should not be able to speak. That's wrong.
Hey, thank you for watching. please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.